WE definitely spoke with their strength, and welcome back to Game 2 of Young Generation versus Team WE. And Young Generation have chosen the red side this time around. Does make sense. 100% of their...
之前比赛 BO1 的话，还有奇招可以制胜，然后之后到了 BO5 的话，我觉得只有靠硬实力来说话了。这次比赛在我们中国自己的主场举办，我们一定会竭尽全力把 WE 最好的一面展现给大家。
Well, WE definitely spoke with their strength, and welcome back to Game 2 of Young Generation versus Team WE. And Young Generation have chosen the red side this time around. Does make sense. 100% of their victories, of course, in the group stage here of the play-ins was victories on the red side, so that's understandable. However, red side or not, things were looking really worrying after the draft for Game 1.
And as 957 so aptly put as well, it shows the real strength of teams. Being able to win a best of 1 is a good start, but being able to win a best of 5 shows that you can adapt to losses, that you can grow, that you can learn, that your coaching staff and players can all keep growing as a series goes. We have to see that from Young Generation. That's the thing. They've chosen red side, so they understand where their strengths want to be. But can they deny the strengths, perhaps, of Team WE on the opposite side? Or will the exact same comp exist? Will they be able to just run over Young Generation again? Or can they show that they can grow?
Yeah, because if they don't change anything in the draft, things could be a problem. But what do you want to see? As far as that change is concerned, what do you think Young Generation do need to adapt to after that first game?
So for me, primarily for Young Generation, it's taking things away from Team WE. I don't think they need to necessarily change big fundamental things. It is almost a Mystic special of the past few weeks of the LPL just before they came to Worlds itself. And ultimately, it means it leaves open the cog more for Big Koro to play. Now, if they want to lock in that 2v2, that is outstandingly strong. We know it can be very successful, and they can pick any other champion they want around that. Team WE's response is likely going to be the Alistar in the support role if they want to try and keep that down, because Tristana usually pairs up well with it.
Well, it looks like Young Generation not wanting to change their composition at all. They've got the bans where they need them to be. The Galio and Jarvan no longer a threat to watch out for, and they're just going to see whether what they planned last time is going to work out here against WE round 2.
Yeah, now Varus is still going to be locked in for Big Koro. Might just be a comfort champion that he wants to stick to, doesn't want to get uncomfortable and pick something like the Cogmore. We have to look at that and explore how they're going to go in the 2v2 as the game kicks off. They still have a lot of lane controllers. There's Condi in the jungle.
Yep, they're going for it once again. Does mean that Xie can now feel free to head towards a tank in the mid lane if he wants to. It's not going to be the Galio, but it could be something else. A little bit more of the tanky stats, because having 2 of these carries from multiple areas is going to be useful here for WE. Not entirely sure what Xie could potentially go towards, but Gragas is going to be taken away from Venus. It's going to be the jungle pool that's going to get hit, because he hasn't decided to take one away just yet.
May just be something like the Orianna if they want to fully commit to, just giving shields to the million carries that Team WE will eventually have for themselves. Champions like Taric are still going to be there to enable all of the comp that Team WE have got for themselves to excel. Young Generation are starting to ban supports away. The other one is Braum. Now, if you've got an Ezreal and a Tristana and Braum is your support, with a Maokai as well, they can dive bottom at level 3 if they want. They can just dive whenever because Braum empowers auto attackers and they have a lot of them.
Yeah, and the Thresh is the one that's going to be banned away here. So Braum, like you said, certainly going to be available, and WE probably looking to lock away a support, get themselves a counter pick potentially for that mid lane. But Janna, another option, adds to that disengage as well. Bramble Smash and the Buster Shot certainly there.
Yeah, Janna's always going to be a good option when you've got Tristana as the hyper carry. Lulu taken away means they can be the shield-based Ardent Sensi user. Now, this does also alleviate a lot of pressure that YG would have had against them in the bottom lane. So their 2v2 is unlocked to just control it as best they can. Poke, push, take down structures. Now the rest of the map to be secured.
Well, the Syndra not going to get banned away. Venus as well going to immediately lock in the Lee Sin. 100% win rate so far. Of course, sample size of 1 here in the play-ins, but hasn't actually died on the Blind Monk in the jungle. And this is going to be the change-up. Just more comfort added to Young Generation's lineup. And I like it because it's a lot of extra power in these lanes. Nocti going to be on the same Cho'Gath once again, but of course has already secured a victory on that one in the second day for Young Generation's play here in the play-ins. And Noel, despite the 0-2 scoreline for the Syndra, certainly did look good. And we got a triple 80 carry comp coming out from WE, but I guess 80% of Corki's auto attacks is going to be magic damage,
magic
so it does
damage.
make some sense.
I mean, the damage is mixed.
I thought this might happen. Does this like create this Ardent Sensor monsoon destruction situation where you get to empower 380 carries with a monsoon? They're just sitting there shooting out of it?
I mean, if that's how it plays out, then yes, absolutely.
That'd
It could be a
cool.
death ball of attack speed and healing that Ben's able to provide for the team. Mystic right now may want to change summoner spells, so we're going to be running with 2 heals as well.
What's wrong with double heal?
Oh, there's not a lot wrong with it. There's just better. if we, But ultimately, yeah, they've gone for 3 AD carries. They've gone for 1 tank. And this is why I actually still brought up Braum perhaps as a better option. It's a support that can be a tank that can empower auto-attacking compositions, but can do a lot of other things, and most importantly being that second frontliner, that second tank member. Janna's going to keep the carries alive. But the way I see this is they probably need to get ahead early here, Team WE, to snowball the composition. Because if you fall behind against a Lulu Varus and a Cho'Gath, most importantly, you'll probably just get popped every time a team fight happens, let alone Syndra and Lee Sin, 2 very good snowball champions that can one-hit carries with that Syndra outplay button that she has on her keyboard. The fact that Lee Sin can pick single targets off.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether Venus is going to be able to get things done in the early game, because we know that Condi is going to be moving around the map as quickly as he possibly can, trying to affect these lanes as fast as possible. So loading up here towards Summoner's Rift for game number 2. WE wanting to try and set themselves up for match point here in Wuhan. Home crowd advantage, but also the home crowd disadvantage of all of that pressure that WE do have on them. If game 1 is anything to go by, though, not looking too worried about the situation whatsoever, because it was domination to start things off.
Crowd just going off.
Yeah.
Of course, wishing their team luck. Frostgoon has mentioned what it means an awful lot already. It's a great word, though. And so we'll watch as they slowly pan out onto Summoner's Rift. Again, we mentioned the early strength. Well, right now, WE's bottom lane in the 2v2. Ben and Mystic, I mean, they've gone for the Targods, they've gone for the coin, they're going to try and just hold on for their lives. Tristana has a decent amount of wave clear, so relative to what a Varus and a Lulu will output, they'll probably still push WE under the turret, they just won't have as many minions to threaten the structure itself with. You're looking at the junglers once again as the big priority. The early pressure Lee Sin, almost forced, because Ezreal was there. You have to respond to an Ezreal with an aggressive jungler, or you're most likely just going to lose tempo in the jungle, and then pretty much just lose out on the first gank, lose the game.
Yeah, if we remember back to WE versus Lion, one of the other options was going towards that Kha'Zix, and works out in a similar way. You know, get that early game pressure and try and camp him out. And if you face check the Lee Sin once he picks up a red buff in a couple of levels, will be very scary for Condi. Question is what they're going to be able to do this time. It is going to be the red buff start, but will it be a level 2 gank, something like that? Perhaps. And which lane is he going to head towards as well? Because,
well, right now,
yeah, looks like top could be the option.
He's actually about to find him at the bush. They're about to spot each other.
Oh my goodness, Nocti already using the flash, and the red buff is there. Condi just going to move straight back into the brush.
Condi could have flashed. Like, they could have went for that kill if they really wanted to pressure it, but Condi holds on. He knows the blue buff's about to be shown as missing, but what Young Generation have done smartly on the opposite side is they've warded the enemy blue buff. Process of elimination now with the rest of these wards that Condi is carefully and expertly skirting around. He is just hard committing to ganks.
Yeah, lane after lane here. Really good scat of the week, though, as Noel gets Condi out of the way. Condi not going to be too worried about it, just going to leech some XP.
Yeah.
Move himself over towards his blue side.
Now, Young Generation have survived both of these ganks. You've got a flash use in the top lane, absolutely nothing used but a bit of mana in the middle lane. So ultimately, they come out ahead. Team WE take a big risk to go for those ganks. And now we watch as they slowly try and get back into the jungle. But look at Condi. He knows that his blue buff's going to be pressured out. Has no vision he can place down there. Because once again, the bottom lane of WE are losing. So he just stays top. Yeah. He's just going to stay at 1 CS all game.
Well, thankfully, it's the right CS, as they do get a ward in this brush. The red buff is there, and Condi looking for the first blood. Should be able to get it, as the rupture at least lands. Nocti doing a bunch of work, but first blood does go to 957.
Lots of damage coming out of Condi. Also saves his Q for the moment. The Twisted Advance connects. And Condi, as he walks through, 2 CS now, as he steals one away from 957. they will still get themselves that first blood, and a nice little buffer of gold going towards the team. Venus is still really much like haunting his jungle.
Yeah, going to be able to take away the blue buff. The wolves are going to be stolen as well. Xie, not a lot he can do against the Lee Sin.
And a 2-level advantage, most importantly, for Venus as well. If we look at the race to 6, you would have to expect Lee Sin will win. Condi, very luckily, is going to have some catch-up experience bonuses.
And look at these stats for Null. This is what I was talking about before. His Syndra's 0-2, basically a 5 KDA, and plus 22 CS at 15 minutes. This guy is lane dominant on this champion, despite how the games ended up on day number 1.
Yeah, and 682 damage per minute is by no means bad as well. It's just that he keeps losing these games. The first time we saw him play as Syndra wasn't great. The second time, though, was fantastic, as we'll get to watch what happens in the top lane. 957 wards, holds onto the twisted advance, as does Condi with his Q. Note that as he's stuck, that's when the Q goes out, maximizing the damage. Nice little dodge. Condi, of course, with the grasp of the Undying and a minion wave hitting him, still loses an awful lot of his health.
Yep.
But ultimately, the correct play from Condi, I'm still calling it cheese, but the correct play.
Well, speaking of cheese, he's back there again, Rusty. No red buff this time.
Doesn't have a buff.
Yeah.
Nor does he have a blue buff. Venus has that.
Teleport from Xie is going to be used to get back into the mid lane.
What are you doing?
Venus now trying to get a gank underneath the turret here.
They're full health.
WE bottom side. Yeah, Safeguard's going to come in, but Mystic and Ben probably not too worried about this. They're just looking to try and get as much pressure on this outer turret as they possibly can.
And he may stay, actually. The Lee Sin might just want to hang around if their goal is to get the structure. There's no teleport, though, from Nocti. You'd have to feel like 957's well equipped to be able to come down and counter gank this, and they don't know where Condi is. It looks like they'll err to the side of caution. Cute little stuff there, though, from Venus. It's not a gank, but it's still successful if his goal was damage to the turret.
Yeah, and Condi actually able to catch himself back up as far as jungle minions are concerned. Don't let that confuse you, though, ladies and gentlemen. That was a Krug camp that he took, so inflated numbers as far as that is concerned, but does help as far as the catch-up experience is concerned. Condi abusing that just a little bit.
Yeah, at the end of the day, he's only about 200 gold behind, so relative to Venus in the jungle comparison will be perfectly fine, Condi, considering the start.
Mystic having to be a little bit careful, accidentally cancels an auto attack there, means that the trade relatively even. Condi waiting in the wings. Pallet does need to be very careful. He's moving towards Condi now. The explosion of damage on top of the Lulu, who's looking for Ben. The Ignite shouldn't be enough as he has popped that potion as well. Venus, bit of a love tap from the Mystic shot, and WE get themselves out with a kill.
Pallet, knowing there was no way out in that situation, goes forwards, doesn't use the flash to try and get overly aggressive for a kill, though. Knows the limits and knows that he's just going to be a sacrifice for the cause. Team WE, well, Condi in the correct place at the correct time, using the control ward vision that was already established. Get themselves a second kill. Young Generation's jungler, Venus, definitely not playing the gank game as well.
Yeah, and this is the danger. Of course, Condi, we knew that he wanted to get the ganks off, and Young Generation also knew that Condi would be not focusing on farming, he's focusing on getting his lanes ahead where he can, and he has actually been able to do that thus far. 957 with this minion wave pushing forward. Nocti able to farm, absolutely fine, but 957 also will be able to get himself into a great position, and it's important that that one tank is going to be able to get the work done. But now you can see Null moving towards the bottom lane.
And the Lee Sin, there is a chance that the turret is the focus. If a kill comes out, they're happy for it.
Oh, that scat of the week was amazing. The ultimate comes out from Null, all too easily locks down the kill onto Ben, and Mystic just getting escorted up this lane. The flash comes in, and Venus is going to follow Mystic through an orbs thrown at him, and that's going to be the double for Null. Bottom lane destroyed of WE.
First turret goes down, 2 big kills going over to Null, and suddenly it's a 1,000 gold lead that stretches out for Young Generation, and that's the beauty of this play. Also the Infernal Drake. All it takes is one good move to redirect the flow of this game. WE's momentum was just picks, just small details. Even Nocti taking away that blue buff.
Well, Nature's Grasp is going to come in, and Condi wants to get this one away. Xie is going to be here as well as the Dragon falls in favor of Young Generation, but WE, they've got their eyes on the kills as Xie comes in with a Frost Bomb, all too easily takes that one down, and thankfully for 957, the turret is going to reset at the right time.
Yeah, good flash out from 957. They trade as far as kills are concerned, but they still lose that first turret. From the pushing 2v2, Young Generation will obviously swap that lane now. They'll send their bottom lane up to the top side. and they'll try and continue to repeat that strategy, this constant onslaught of just destroying structures, growing a gold advantage from these structures, and then turning that into a mid-game team fight when they get the big item spikes, ideally before their opponents of Team WE. We get to watch, of course, how Condi will lose himself a blue buff. Has Smite.
Ah, the old Nocti walks up and yells at it.
At 5 HP.
Yeah.
That's what the blue buff was. That tragic. Of course, this does sign his own death sentence in the end. It takes an awful long time, to the point where Nocti can clear a minion wave, get a bit of extra health back. Still gonna die, but 957, he's got his flash. Twisted Advance doesn't actually reset the aggro, I believe, because they kill him before he can follow through with it.
Also, Nocti giving over the double buffs. 957 will make his own life harder. And to that end, they are going to switch up these lanes as well. Big Koro just wanting to push this one through, and that outer turret falling on the bottom side. First up here for Young Generation means that WE a little bit behind the 8-ball, and as far as tempo is concerned, that play for Young Generation really did turn things around. WE grabbing themselves back that gold advantage based on their earlier kills. But as far as map play is concerned, Young Generation back in the forefront.
Yeah, they certainly are. Of course, the trade was done by WE just then, though. The fact that they're trying to push top lane expected from Young Generation, WE are the ones that do the unexpected.
Like shooting blast cones for
like
no
just
reason.
blast coding your own teammate back into the red buff.
Yep.
It's also very difficult to siege against 957 when he's got the blue buff, when he's got the red for health regeneration between minion waves that are crashing as well. The blessing in disguise is the fact that 957's able to pick up those buffs. They're gone now, but he's been able to hold on to this top lane for such a protracted period of time. It's given WE the ability to rotate now, as he's
Yeah, he's not too worried about this whole situation.
thinks he's the king of the castle.
He's got a bunch of items. Ultimate does eventually come down as Nature's Grasp. Don't think it'll be enough as he gets himself back in there. Wild Growth just to make sure that the tree dies. And Mystic, has he turned up in time is the question. Big kickback as the Polymorph comes in at the same time. And Mystic on the wrong side of this fight. Condi now bashed on and destroyed by Null in the jungle. And Young Generation looking to turn the tide in this series.
Does Condi show up on time? Does Mystic show up on time? Yes, for a kick in the face. And he's going to die as Young Generation will get themselves another structure, but most importantly, all of those kills. 957, Condi and Mystic go down. Very well played from this side. Just standard League of Legends from YG. And finally, the craziness that WE are throwing at them backfires heavily.
Yeah, and it feels a little bit like disrespect. I mean, based on this composition, this triple AD carry comp, it's not exactly your standard League of Legends that we've seen from WE so far. 957 actually full disrespect, as he wasn't expecting just to be taken down in this 2v2.
Level down, not really capable of getting the kill onto Pallet. Finds himself next to Big Koro, who still had his heal. Ben, of course, has to use the Monsoon to get him out, but meanwhile, Null is going to absolutely obliterate Condi, and you'd have to imagine, just by being 2-0 already, can pretty much one-hit him. Yeah, look at the moves, the mechanics.
Hey, that was actually pretty good, though. That was blind, and then it got the Q over the wall. Unfortunately for Condi, the Arcane Shift still not enough as far as escaping the stun.
I actually didn't mean that one sarcastically for the first time
right.
ever watching Syndra. I love the assumed knowledge as well, because it is a Syndra. That was good.
It was. Extremely good. Does mean that Young Generation now close to a 2,000 gold lead. Nocti going to throw out the Righteous Glory, but Xie counters that.
Teleporting. Lots of respect shown to the Young Generation roster. The fact that they look at mid lane, Nocti just pops the Righteous Glory and sprints at Xie. Suddenly they're teleporting to help him. But I mean, the teleport's now gone, so correct response. We're looking at macro from YG once again.
Yep, well, both of them are actually gone, as Xie is going to teleport back to the mid lane. Nothing they can do about this Rift Herald being taken down. Game number one, it was WE taking that extraordinarily easily. Now at 13 minutes into this game, it's Young Generation with the control.
Last time we saw a lead like this, a team beating Team WE, somehow they managed to keep themselves with a gold advantage. And that was Lion.
Yeah.
Of course, now Young Generation, very good at using leads, very good at getting victories with those leads, has started to stretch one out, primarily though, through their mid laner with 3 big kills. WE are gonna have to try and pull out that mid-game macro that got them the wins against Lion to get this game going back in their favor. With all these AD carries, it's such an awkward draft, they are susceptible to being scaled against.
Well, Nature's Grasp going to go down just to secure this outer turret on the top side of the map. WE going back to playing Summoner's Rift as opposed to against Young Generation, which is what they're able to often utilize. Null, okay, going down relatively low. Yeah, Orb's getting thrown in. GA not going to die from this one, and Null quite low as well. The rotation should be there from WE, and yeah, this will just be the outer turret falling down as soon as Harold gets one headbutt. See you later, turret.
Yeah, they'll get that turret. Also looking towards the bottom side of the Rift, Nocti has been putting a fair amount of damage down on this. 957 could have stood between those Vorpal spikes and the Cho'Gath and maybe made him tank the turret, but he's still going to lock it down.
Yeah, Miniwave actually turning up in the nick of time, but
Here comes
WE
everyone.
doing exactly the same thing. Nocti's been taking so much punishment so far as 5 members of WE punish the big Void machine on the bottom side.
Pretty big punish, to say the least.
Yeah.
Everybody's showing up, but who's going to help top lane if they're all going bottom? Who's going to help mid lane when it has a Rift Herald still pushing it in when GA decides to recall and get a package?
Well, it just feels like that tempo advantage that Young Generation picked up earlier on in the game has not been overcome by WE so far. True Shot Barrage is going to come in just to try and clear out that minion wave, and WE are, against the flow of the game, going to take this Ocean Drake, but not as good as the Infernal that Young Generation picked up earlier on.
And you mentioned against the flow, absolutely the case, but of course the flow itself isn't all that significant. It's more than a trickle, but it's not going to be a full waterfall, basically, of how big a lead YGF got. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just going to keep talking my way through it. We'll get out to another end eventually. They don't have a snowball lead.
That's the joy of listening to you, my friend.
They don't, yeah, look, here we are.
He's had a long day. You certainly had a long day. And I appreciate you being here, because otherwise it would be the Atlas solo cast situation, and no one wants that. No one wants that, I'm sure. Oh yeah, well, I think it would be hilarious. However, Null setting himself up to try and take Condi down. Condi going to have none of it. As he heads back home, Warrior Enchant is going to be on the cards, but does still need to get towards his Trinity Force.
But he has got the Warrior completed, and that is important, because when you look down the rest of the roster, the Infinity Edge is there for Mystic with the Ardent Sensor to support him and give that extra attack speed. You've got the Trinity Force there in the middle lane as well for Xie, and 957 with an amalgamation of mid-game items. Every type of resistance has now just completed his Ratchet's Glory. It's the second I mentioned his name, so thank you very much, 957.
Well played.
It means that even with a gold deficit, they've got power spikes. They've got the capability of fighting, yet at the same time, there are big power spikes for Young Generation. You don't want to discredit their current strength, because they are slightly ahead in those items to their respective opponents.
Big Crow actually going to change up his item build here as well, going for the Infinity Edge into Zeal item. Going to scale a lot better as far as those autos are concerned, adding that crit towards the build. As Xie possibly in trouble, as he's going to flash out of the way of Nocti. Rupture not going to land, the Feral Scream not going to land either. Young Generation going to have to walk away from the court.
Fancy footwork from Xie, but at the end of the day, he's not actually going to be dodging anything meaningful, as Nocti was just standing still and auto-attacking him. No!
Yeah, Condi needs to be careful.
Oh my god.
Okay, just not going to work as the kickback onto Mystic as he jumps himself over. 957 so deep as the Nature's Grasp comes in. He's looking for Null to try and take him down, and Xie going to get some revenge for the jungler. Mystic, such a massive shield actually coming in as Big Crow throws out the ultimate. Health bars are going so low as Null still landing the skills, and Big Crow just backing this one up. 957, he's not dying anytime soon, but they're out of damage. Pallet has the shields, he's got the heal, and that is going to be a huge team fight win for Young Generation.
Effectively the ace as Condi comes back to life after Null has blasted him earlier in the team fight, and suddenly Young Generation to push middle lane. Only got the 2 minions, but the next wave crashes and the gold lead grows for them further. They look fantastic in this second game. They are taking apart Team WE.
Yeah, it's looking brilliant. 5 turrets now to 2 in favor of Young Generation. That is going to spell 5,000 gold in the lead. So let's see how this goes, because it was very chaotic to start things off.
Null is level 11 as well, and though there's a lot of shields, there's a lot of healing from Ben, it's not going to be enough to keep him alive. Mystic, honestly, I have no idea how he survived through what is going to just be charging at him after this. Good stun. Nocti's there, and you're like, oh my god. Yeah, no, he's in a lot of trouble. Big Crow is about to find him. and weaves the one possible direction that will keep him alive to be able to survive for that long, but still losing the fight in the end because Null is destroying everybody in the back lines. Big Koro can flash forwards and secure the kill in the end. And Xie was about to find himself inside the belly of Nocti. And he goes into the death chamber.
Delicious. Gentleman, Shogath. Not exactly a gentleman when he goes around eating people. Certainly working out here for Young Generation, though. Now, moving towards that 20-minute mark, I mean, it could be another story of a very early Baron.
Could be.
If Young Generation, who have all of the control that they could ever want on this top side of the map.
No Mountain Drakes, though. It's going to take a little bit longer to secure any kind of Barons. No Blade of the Ruined King builds.
Yeah, very true.
So the exact same thing applies, but there is the Liandry's for Null, if there's one big positive. So if the Syndra is hitting the Baron, that will help a lot in burning it down quickly.
Certainly does do a heck of a lot of damage, does Null. And knows exactly how much he can do as well. The cool guys don't look at explosions. Ultimates that he's been throwing out so far this game have certainly been working.
Surprisingly, he actually loses that matchup pretty hard. He was down 10, 15 CS around the 10, 15 minute mark, so really not a great look at the start for Caps, though he is going to end up bouncing back.
And when we look at this game, of course, it did feel very much like a macro game for the vast majority of it. Teams rotating around, looking to trade towers back and forth. Exactly. And it felt like HKA were pretty comfortably in the lead, then passed it back to Fnatic. It was sort of all over the place.
I felt like what we saw was an initial lane dominance coming out from the side of HKA. You could see CS advantages all across the board from them, and it was what we were talking about earlier, where a lot of their leads have come from their laning prowess. Unified stepped up massively against Reckless and Jezz down in the bottom lane. It was in part thanks to the matchup, of course, but the fact that they were able to push them out, even force Fnatic into this swap, just goes to show the strength of their individual laners. The problem was, Fnatic, they have a little bit more experience moving around the map, and often they did have that tempo advantage, and they slowly
and to be fair, their experience, I think they over-trusted it once or twice.
Yeah,
they made a misjudgment there, too. When we take a look at our first replay here, you can see that ultimately that experience sort of counted against them because they did not respect the potential collapse.
And there's a lot of global tools here on the side of HKA. They were just pushing bot lane. Fnatic was, rotated mid, tried to get there first, but Ashen cast in, did a good job cutting off the escape, forced Jezz into the mid lane where the top side of HKA was collapsing. They get a couple of kills. They were not actually able to break that mid turret there, which ends up being a huge problem for them because it took them forever to try and get any pressure down around there. And then their 1-3-1 basically fell apart because they never could push in deep enough into Fnatic's side.
All right, we talked about this a lot, but I think we have to hit it again. HKA, why are they struggling to close this out? Because
barrier. So Mystic smartly into the Varus will go towards that summoner spell, gets himself out quite all right. Means that the Gragas ultimate was used and ultimately wasted. However, when you really look at this, it was a good move from Venus to be at the correct place as Koro ticks over to the level 6 point. Still pressure in the bottom lane, nonetheless.
Yeah, Ben needs to be a little bit careful. Seems like he's having a good amount of time spent on this bottom side taking damage. Koro does need to avoid the spit coming out of this Pugmore.
Awkward control word placement from Ben, was obviously doing it while he was stuck under the turret, but Condi's got the inside track here if they want to.
Yeah, well, I've seen this one before as the Dazzle's going to get flashed out of, but Big Koro straight into a Cataclysm. Wild Growth is not enough, and the ultimate's going to make sure they secure it from Ben. WE, they spent a lot of time down here, but they seem to make it work no matter what.
Yeah, both teleports at the last second, of course, being cancelled. On top of that, you look towards the mid lane, there's no packages, just blue buffs. Xie is still the faster roamer then, and so the threat towards the bottom lane tower now becomes very real once this middle wave is cleared. But suddenly, they choose not to keep going for any kind of big plays, Team WE. They want to slow the pace of this game down. They're happy with the kills. They want to keep laning. Nice flash flag drag from Condi. The flash out early by Big Koro ultimately signs his death sentence. Maybe wanted to hold on to that one. Expect the Cataclysm to come out first. It's a trust fall with Pallet.
Yeah.
Doesn't go as planned for Young Generation.
It was really well played by Condi, though, just to make sure Flash comes out, then he presses his R button. He'd already closed the gap, so there was no way he was getting out of range of that particular ultimate. It's just Condi, once again, early game dominance. They're now on the Jarvan.
There will be
a Young Generation can find their way forward.
There will be a big Trinity Force spike for the Corki in the middle lane, the Blade of the Ruined King spike as well is timed super nicely for Big Koro if they ever want to, make those big plays. The package timing is something that they should be keeping their eye in on as well. and using the Cho'Gath, who has the Feast. There's a world where Young Generation could do one of the crazy, just suddenly we're swapping lanes in a situation where Team WE don't expect it, get a kill top lane, break open the map with structures falling down. That's something that you have to keep your eyes on if they choose to make a play like that. Because right now, if the laning phase continues, if it's pulled out longer and protracts any further, I mean, they're getting closer to Team WE's items, and that's always going to be a big concern.
Yeah, and the classic Team WE time mark as well. Just feels the longer these games go, the more it goes in Team WE's favor. And it's just that feeling that you get in your gut as well, watching Team WE. Of course, Young Generation able to grab a great first blood, but you just never expect that to be the end of a series when it comes to Team WE. They didn't have the most dominant beginnings to any of their games, but they're still 4-0 in the group stage here of the play-ins. It's going to take a lot more than just a first blood to get Young Generation over the line.
It's going to take a lot more than just a first blood, and that's the most important part of this matchup between the two teams, is Young Generation, just through the play-in tournament, have proven that they need to be ahead early to win a game, basically. But they can extend their losses to a super long, drawn-out game. However, doing that against Team WE, as you mentioned, has got that 35-minute break point where they just come online out of the blue.
No matter what.
Yeah, doesn't actually matter how far behind they are. They're just that good at doing it. Yet, Young Generation are currently falling a little bit behind early on in the game, as top laners will say good day.
Yep. Nocti actually silencing 957 as 957 silences himself.
Doesn't unsilence him, however. It's not maths.
All right, good. 2 negatives don't make a positive or something like that.
Well done.
Okay, well, Gondi sitting on his 2-0 at the moment. Does have himself a casual Spectre's Cowl to begin things off. Understands that there's a lot of magic damage flying forward, even Big Koro having a fair bit of it himself. Just to make sure that he can get ganks off onto Null if he would like to.
That is true. A fair amount of magic damage coming out of the entirety of that composition. When you look at Team WE, though, even Mystic is going to have a fair chunk of just magic damage himself on the Kog'Maw. And so the Shu is also on the other foot in that respect. They can both just stack magic resistance and see who comes out ahead.
Well, Null's going to see his blue buff being stolen away here. Xie is going to get his Blossom Smash on top of it. It's probably not going to be enough as Justice Punch secures it,
Wasn't a big rocket. His next rocket will be large. Of course, the red indicator now. Fancy new Corky tech.
Well, Nocti actually able to steal away at the blue buff. No one here try and challenge that one, but getting it away from Null is probably the main objective here for WE.
Yeah, it's not the first time that Nocti's done this either. So yes, they steal away the blue buff from Null, and that's going to be good because Xie then gets a bit more tempo in the middle lane, can control the waves. Corky's just recalled, in fact, and we'll have that package based off how fast the man is moving. But you are looking at a Cho'Gath with blue buff. We've seen him do it earlier in this tournament, and that does help out a substantial amount in top lane if it's ever a lane where you're being pressured in as Cho'Gath. The mana costs on his spells are ridiculous at times.
And now he can just spam them out.
He can feast all of the things.
Yeah, just yelling at them. Like it. Even throws down a Rupture on 1 minion. How gratuitous.
It's a lot of respect to 957 is what that is. The fact that there's 1 minion, he still just needs to throw out the Q to get.
Well, Venus hanging out towards the top side, but 957 knows exactly what's going on. Hanging out underneath his turret. Make sure no opportunities are given to Young Glory's Young Generation's jungler.
Does look like an opportunity, however, though, Atlas, when you're looking at Young Generation, the Corky package, you're looking at the minions crashing. They could go.
Yep, special delivery. 957 does need to get himself out of here as there's the hero's entrance. 957 going to be well and truly safe. Get a big cooldown out, and they don't invest too much to try and stop that.
They choose not to go at all, Young Generation. It was close to making the play. The Gragas ultimate has been used, but you've got to feel like Cho'Gath not having his level 11 feast up because he used it on a minion earlier could just be the difference there in their decision making. They choose to back away. A lot of respect shown to Team WE and to Galio as the ult misses.
Yeah, and this is going to mean WE's push on the bottom side, teleport a little bit earlier, and they are going to guarantee this turret. Looking for the kills now. Justice Punch not finding too much distance further forward, but WE wanting to keep the pressure up. Exactly.
I don't think they're going to slow down here. Xie tanking for a little bit as well to keep the minions alive just a second longer. Null's around the corner.
Yeah, and Condi's going to find him immediately, just pressuring him away from this inner turret. They've still got that one caster creep that is going to ensure that this inner turret is taken one after the other. WE strike, and they haven't even lost that outer turret that went down so low earlier in the game.
They get that extra bit of control back, compliments of Condi's ganks, and you're right, WE were able to hold on to those structures. Nocti hasn't been able to get the top lane one himself just yet. Cho'Gath all on his lonesome, not the fastest of pushers. You've got Gragas responding, Corki responding.
Reset, surely.
Oh, he definitely does, Atlas, and all the AoE clear in the world for minions.
Yeah.
But the auto attack reset unfortunately doesn't empower onto structures all that well.
You just needed to build a Trinity Force. That being said, not going to happen, and Mystic's going to transition up towards the top side to try and get more of these structures down. Rageblade completed, as well as a couple of daggers. See what he is going to head towards, probably Runan's Hurricane.
Yeah, as you would expect, of course. Blade of the Ruined King, one of those really adventurous other options, and a lot of Cogmores.
I feel like the order is up for debate sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
Cogmore builds.
Even the Wit's End is something that they could go for, depending on what they feel like is necessary. If you're Mystic in this case, actually, might go Wit's End.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, lots of magic damage on the opposing team. There's Condi.
Yeah, there's a big double Cataclysm. It's in fact the Cataclysmic entrance as Big Co's going to get evaporated, and it's a double kill from 957 with the equalizer from downtown. WE 4-1 now in kills, and it feels like it's just getting worse and worse for Young Generation.
That was so pretty from Team WE. The equalizer on top of the Cataclysm with the Galio ulting in as well.
Oh, and a party cast.
He just celebrates the enemy team's success, throws out a cast. Not too sure where that one was going. It was adventurous.
I think we know who was in charge of getting the drinks for the party, Rusty. I think that's
Greg the ice on him.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, Condi just going to celebrate once more by grabbing the Rift Herald. Mystic going to help out. It just feels like WE have more players on the Rift right now. After the two-man defense on the top side, it just feels like WE able to utilize globals a whole lot better, grab themselves that global lead, grab the map pressure. Now you can see pings going down to the outer turret in the mid lane. Xie shoving that one forward. That is going to be where they're going to be focusing their efforts with the Rift Herald to help them out at the same time. It just feels like everything is fitting into place here for WE.
All going according to plan. So ultimately for Team WE with that Herald, should just be the mid lane turret. Maybe more than one turret, depending on